a cloud kitchen. And however, I wanted to know your side of story, the post-pandemic changes in terms of, you know, your the drinks, and how is it affected, you know, in terms of cocktails and mocktails, and you know, just the post-pandemic scenario.
Yeah, I think post-pandemic, I would say it has changed for the better.
Yeah.
Because what it also did, especially during COVID, when we were all locked up in our respective homes, what it also did is, I think people then got hooked onto social media, we're watching videos, and I think what really took shape was the whole idea of a cocktail. It brought in a lot of excitement to people while they were sitting in their respective homes and trying to do something. So I think mixing drink was one thing that people really enjoyed in their respective homes. What it also did is it gave rise to the popularity of cocktails.
Yeah.
So, and then when things kind of settled down after COVID, I think people started to go to bars, and there was a big demand about what is it that the bar has to offer.
Yes.
And what is it that the bartender has to offer.
Yes.
Whether it's small bars, you know, high volume bars, cocktail has become a big thing, even in restaurants.
Yeah.
So even the restaurants started to look at a bar program very, very strongly.
Yeah.
And now you have a good offering when it comes to beverage programming, even in restaurants, right?
Yes.
Reason being, it's the consumer who's led it.
Yeah.
So it's the consumer who had actually now made it happen for the industry.
Yeah.
So because the consumer demand has gone so much that the love for cocktails is only growing.
It is.
And therefore, I think it's given a lot of rise to a strong cocktail culture.
Yeah.
In India, in tier 1 cities for sure, but now it's also happening in tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that is definitely one of the biggest contribution of the pandemic.
And I think cocktail, you know, flavors and cocktail culture has become very popular at homes also.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, at home parties and, you know, all of that. Is there a popular drink at, you know, very commonly made at home? You think that, you know, a lot of people are indulging in 2-3 drinks that have become that really, really, you know, massively appreciated, that cocktail drink.
The interesting thing is, while you have a lot of home chefs, now you also have a lot of home bartenders.
Yeah.
A lot of people have started to make videos.
Yeah.
They're not bartenders, but they started to make videos of how to make, let's say, a good margarita at home, or how to make a good daiquiri at home. So people started making these videos, not with the bartending background.
Yeah.
They do make a lot of silly mistakes, but having said that, I think it does well for the consumer in the sense that it definitely creates a lot more knowledge and awareness about cocktails and makes the cocktail more popular.
Yeah. So how do you view the rise of indigenous or, you know, mixed ingredients in cocktails and mocktails? There's a very mix of indigenous ingredients. So I just wanted to know about that.
Okay. So I think what you meant by indigenous is definitely local products, right? Or
Very,
local
very
flavors or regional flavors. I think it is taking good shape from a popularity point of view, also with the excitement amongst consumers, purely because let's say you are in Delhi and you know, you take off and go to London tomorrow. You don't want to drink the same thing that you drank in Delhi, or eat the same thing that you eat in Delhi, right? So with travel, what is also happening is you don't want to experience the same thing everywhere you go. You want to experience what is it that is so unique about that place. You know, whether it's the produce, whether it's the culture, whether it's the food and drinks, all of that. And therefore, what is happening is, with extensive travel happening across the globe, people are now looking at regional and local flavors, local influences and everything, whether it's food or drinks program. And that is definitely giving a lot of rise to bartenders using a lot of local inspiration. Simple. You're sitting at this bar called The Brook. It is inspired by the mountains, and I'm a mountain boy. For me to narrate the mountain story, very easy. That I don't have to refer to or do a lot of research in order to bring in stories and inspiration to the drinks or the look and feel of the place. Right? So it just comes naturally, and also it's original. Right? So it gives tremendous amount of confidence, whether it's to the chef or the bartender as well. So I think regional and local, whatever you have experienced even as a child, or you grew up experiencing it, it's much more easier to bring it forward in the form of drinks or food. Right? And that also automatically has a very strong connect with the consumer.
Yeah.
Right? Because when I tell a mountain story, I think the consumer kind of immediately connects because it comes very, very naturally to me. Similarly, somebody who's from, Goa and narrates the story of his or what Goa has to offer as a whole. I think if it comes naturally from his past experiences, the connect is very, very strong and much easier.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, it automatically gives a great experience to the consumer, and the consumer tends to buy into it.
Right.
So yes, I think not just in India but even globally, the local and regional stories are big.
So if I have to portray a drink, like if I have to explain a drink in terms of indigenous, ingredients, what different things are you trying in terms of, that can be, termed as a new drink in terms of, I've seen some people, when I was doing my R&D, there was a lot of millets and all of that stuff that also used in drinks. Is it really happening?
Absolutely. I think it is purely about what you pick.
Yeah.
So let me give you an example. For example, you will see a lot of coffee drinks, and coffee is absolutely a no-brainer because the moment you have the flavor of coffee in your cocktail, most of the time it tends to work with the consumer, right? The consumer kind of buys into it and accepts it pretty well.
Yeah.
But the moment you have tea, with tea, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So now the understanding of tea comes into play, which quality of tea and how you're going to use it. So it is purely about what ingredient you pick, what flavor you pick, and how are you going to use it. It's purely based on your understanding of that ingredient.
Okay.
I have used a lot of tea in my cocktail programs. I've also used intense flavors like, let's say, a Himalayan Sichuan pepper, like a timber.
Wow.
Now it's much easier with a timber because timber is very prominent in the drink. Whereas tea could also may not be one of those most sought after ingredients. How you
absolutely.
use it and how you rope it in.
Yeah.
So how you rope it in is critical.
Yeah.
So it depends upon what you're bringing to the table and your understanding of the ingredient.
Yeah.
It is not just about local, right?
Yeah.
The same thing applies to the chefs as well.
Yes.
Right? There are many ingredients in plenty.
Yeah.
Especially in India, I think with the kind of diverse flavors and produce that we have, everything is in plenty.
Yeah.
Right? It's about your own personal experience, your understanding and your maturity that will help it translate into a good drink or a good dish. Okay. That's critical.
So like I said that, I was very, very skeptical about, COVID pandemic and post that. So how is the total bar scene evolved post pandemic? If I say on the whole, the bar scene. And now currently, what would like to, send as a message to the aspiring mixologist or anybody who would love to take over in the cocktail world?
Like I mentioned earlier on, I think the cocktail excitement or the bar culture excitement is tremendous. And this is not just in India. I think it's a global thing. Even bartenders bars have started to connect really, really strongly as a fraternity across the globe. So these whole exchange of bar takeovers, a lot of bar shows happening across. There's a lot of education happening in the space. So I think the industry as a whole is also now moving on to the next level.
Yeah.
From an education point of view, from an awareness point of view, from a lot of sharing of knowledge and culture point of view. So all of these things are happening. At the same time, what it is also doing is it is also taking the consumer along with it.
Yeah.
So now we see a great amount of consumers, especially in India, would like to come sit here and interact with the bartender, right? They like to read a good menu. They like to understand the whole inspiration of the particular bar that they're sitting at.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case in the past.
Yeah.
People just came for a drink. But now it's not just a drink. They want to know whether the place has the right vibe, whether the place plays the right kind of music, whether the bartender is interactive enough, is the menu well curated, in the story of the drink, is it something that kind of creates that excitement within the consumer. So both sides of the bar has kind of evolved, especially in the last 5 years.
Does it come under what you call as experiential hospitality?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Because I think even the understanding of hospitality from the perspective of both the bartender as well the consumer has kind of taken a completely different route altogether.
Right.
Now, I think the people in the business understand hospitality much better and define
Yes,
it
they do.
in a different way. And it's not just about artificial hospitality. Now, I think it's hospitality straight from the heart.
Exactly.
You know, that is what's happening
Yeah.
across, and people understand it better, trying to
Yeah.
understand it better,
Yes.
and apply it
Yes.
in the respective bars and restaurants. At the same time, even the consumer is connecting with it straight away.
Right.
You know, especially in this part of the world. You know, let's say when I started bartending, or when I started as a hotelier, you know, people were always, you know, as a guest, you would always consider yourself a little above where your server or your bartender was. But now we are at the same level.
Okay.
Right, so it's human to human.
Yeah.
And I think that understanding is coming from the consumer side as well.
It is.
And there's a great amount of research.
I think that understanding is also developed.
Totally,
which is,
totally.
Yeah.
It's the connect, right?
Yeah.
And it's more global now.
Yes.
That's how I would like to probably
Yes.
put it.
So Yangdup, do you think Indian consumers are, shifting away from dark spirits like whiskey, and maybe on the same league?
No, not really. I think there isn't a shift between light and dark spirits or the other way around. I think consumers are growing. The market is getting bigger. So, you know, while, you know, there is a great amount of gin that is coming to the market, let's say light spirit, even something like a silver tequila rage is going on. But despite of all this, you would see that there is still a lot of space for new whiskeys, right? People or brands are creating more extension of their whiskey offerings. And the numbers in terms of market share for whiskey, I think more or less remains the same,
Yes.
which means that it has not gone down, but it's remained very, very constant, or in fact even better. So I don't think there is a shift between